Yeah, good morning, everyone. Good morning, everyone. Today I would like to talk about constraints. So basically, constraints mainly we are dealing with to restriction of the column level or table level. Okay. So what kind of restrictions we can discuss? So we have different constraints are there. So generally, so primary. Mhm. Not there, not able to type. Okay, let's see here. So we have different kind of constraints are there. The very first one is primary key. Okay, or else we'll go the document. Okay. 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 So a constraint or integrity constraints is a restriction that can be applied on a column of table. Okay. So they will be used to provide data integrity among the database. Data integrity is a state in which all the data values stored in the database are correct, or if incorrect data values have been stored in the database. The database is said to have lot data integrity. Simple. Oh my God. Right. Okay. So integrity leave it. So constraints. So basically constraints mainly it's deal with constraints is nothing but a two restriction that can be applied on a column of table. Okay. Simple like simple is very first step is for example the table have the data looks like uh, table table one. So column is there. There is column employee ID. Let us assume employee table, employee ID is there. The values are one, so two, three. Again, we have three inserted. Again, some value is not inserted, null. So if we go for employee ID, in employee ID always it should be unique values. So one, two, three, it cannot allow null value. So here we want to restrict do not insert null values while inserting the table. That is called as constraints. So when you define while creating the table, earlier we did not create any constraints while creating the table so far. So now when we create a table for the columns level, we want to apply some kind of constraints. So for the null constraints is there. So first of all, null constraints. So syntax is, yeah, we go for one by one instead of this. Creating check constraints. Go with another instance document. Yeah, we got with this document. So we have different kind constraints used in SQL Server. We have different kind of constraints are there. So Norton constraints, unique key constraints, primary key constraints, foreign key constraints, check constraints, default constraints. So the very first one, Norton. So take uh, some table script. Let's see here. So I'm going to create a table called as sales table. Okay. So create, not copying. Okay. Let it be create table sales. Okay, what are the columns we have taken? As per the example, ID, amount, vendor name, right? ID. ID is integer. I'm going to define uh, amount. Amount, you can give define as salary. Sorry, amount can give decimal or integer. Amount also I'm going to integer or money. Money, data type, or vendor name. Vendor name always name looks like the varchar, right? So varchar. So the size is 50. Let's go here. So create table sales. So here, as of now, I'm going to create this table with the database of SQL 8am. So I created this table. So I'm going to insert. How to insert the values? Help me guys. Insert into table name. Sales table. We can give direct values. I have explained multiple. Direct I'm going to value 100. ID is starting with 100. Amount is 2,000 or 20,000. Vendor name is Royal, Royal King. Okay. So close the bracket. So I'm going to insert, execute this one. So one row is inserted. Just watch it. So table is inserted. Now select start from sales. Okay, just like okay, just execute. How many rows is there? Just now we inserted one record. So now I'm going to insert again here one record. Okay. So one more record. It's inserted same record. See, is this valid? Generally, it is not valid, right? One is duplicate record. So what I can do? This is one scenario. So second scenario, I am going to insert only ID and amount. So let's see. Insert into values, insert into sales. So you have to give the provide the column names. What is the column name? ID comma amount. So I'm going to only do and inserting 101 and 3. So if I execute this one, it will execute or fail? Fail. The reason is we have passing 2 columns and here passing 3 columns. So that, sorry, 3 values. Okay, it will definitely fail. So what you can do is you can provide 2 values. Okay, now execute. So it will be execute 1 record. See here. So now what is happening? There is vendor name. My requirement is vendor name should not allow any null values. So but here allowing null value. There is a one issue here. So okay. So and one more condition is whenever I insert the table, the amount should greater than the amount should be greater than 5,000. It cannot allow the value where we are trying to insert less than 500, 5,000. Sorry, 5,000. So like when I are trying to 3,000, it will be insert, but I don't want to insert the minimum value to 5,000. So this is one condition is failing. Here the condition is should not allow the money greater or less than 5k. Okay, this condition vendor name should not, so vendor name not null. Okay, here so we have inserted some duplicate records. So as of now we see 3 problems. So here we are trying to insert this record, so it is allowing. Okay, so it is allowing 3,000. So one more condition is if I do not provide any value, if I did not provide any value, so here, so let's say take vendor here, vendor name. So here, the vendor name is Burger King. Okay. So here, if I did not provide amount, the default amount is 5,000. Need to set a default amount is 5,000. Default amount set to 5k. Okay. So this is four parts of while inserting the table. 4 conditions we have to satisfy while creating the table. So first of all, for this we have to follow while creating the table for any table. We have to follow the condition. So for that reason, in the SQL server side, we have constraints also. Constraints whenever we want to declare a column level, so we have different kind of constraints are there. So first of all, we will go with unique constraints. Okay. So unique constraints is nothing but to, so the values, all the values, whatever the ID value, all the values should be unique, but it will allow one null value. So that means 100, 101, 103. This while trying to insert a duplicate record, it cannot allow. And also one null value also will be inserted here. So let's try. So in this case, I will insert one more null value. So ID I am passing as null. So null records are not allowed. So I am going to insert one more. Okay, one row inserted. So now see ID is null. So when you define as uh, not null, not null or unique value. When you define as unique value, it should unique values, and also it will allow one null value. So let's see how to create constraints. So this is the table, right? I'm going to create one more table called as sales underscore unique. Okay. So here, so unique constraints, how we can add unique constraints? So simple syntax is unique. So when you define as unique, unique is the keyword. When you define as table column level unique, so while just execute, so command is successfully executed. Now let's verify the data. So sales underscore unique. So just execute, no data. So I'm going to insert one more record, one record. So what I'm going to insert? So 100. So the very first time it will be execute this record. So one row inserted. I am execute one more time, second time. Okay. I'm inserting duplicate record. So it will throw, sorry, it's my bad. So we have to insert the same values in the sales table. So let's try now. So we are going to insert sales unique table. The very first time, one row affected. I am trying to execute one more time, will throw error because the violation of unity constraint does not allow duplicate key. So it cannot allow. So let's see. So now execute this one. Let's see here. See, only one value is right. You are trying to insert a duplicate value, does not allow. That is the purpose of unity. Unity is a constraint, so it does not allow any duplicate values, and also it will allow one null value. So let's see one null value. I am going to insert one null value. So it will allow. So it will allow. So let's see now. You are trying to insert one more time this null value. It will definitely fail. Okay. So select star from sales unique. So unique key, it will allow unique. It will allow the unique values, and also it will allow one null value. That's the difference. Whereas if you define as here primary key, it will allow unique values. Let's see. We'll go for now primary key. The same example. Okay, next define as a primary key. When you define as a primary key, right? So when you define as primary key, okay, so it does not allow null values. Now it should be unique values. Whatever the values we are trying to insert, it should be unique values like 100 and does not allow null values. Let's try now. So I'm going to insert first null value. So it will fail. So it will say does not allow. So we did not create. Yeah, we'll create. The table is created. So based on that error, you have to identify whether the object is. So cannot insert the value null into column ID table. Column does not allow null value. So When you define as a primary key, it does not allow null value. So interview question is, what is the difference between primary key and unique key? Primary key does not allow any null value, whereas unique key it will allow null value. The basic part is both primary key and unique key. It will give unique value. Clear? I am trying to insert now 100. Let's see 100. I'm inserting same record again, duplicate record. It does not allow. Cannot insert duplicate key in object of devotions. Right. Clear? What is the difference between primary and unique key? Null value. Only the thing is it will allow null value. Unique key is allow null value. Primary key does not allow null value. That's the difference. Okay. Then what is the next one is check constraints. So we go for check constraints. So check constraints. Sorry. So what is the check constraints? A table. Check. So what is the now we go for check constraints. Okay. So check constraints, we can define what is the condition. The amount should be greater than 500. So for that, the where this column I am going to apply. So amount check is a constraint. Open bracket amount column. We have to give amount column always greater than 5,000. Okay. So check is a constraint. We have to pass the column name. What is the column name? Amount greater than 5,000. So when you insert here, so let's execute here. So now insert some values. So insert the very first record is the value is greater than 500. Is true or not? It's true. So I'm going to insert into this record. So it will verify the first condition. We have two constraints here. The table can be more than one constraint. So now as part of this table creation, we have defined primary constraints, check constraints. So let's execute. Okay, we have to change the table name. Let's execute. So one row affected. So now the second thing, anyway, we have defined as a primary key. It does not allow duplicate values. So what we can is we can give one more record. This time I'm giving the salary is 2,000. So we have defined as a constraint. It will check the amount is greater than 500. Is true or false? The amount is greater than 5,000. This condition is failed or it will insert the rate. What is that mean? It will fail. Yeah, it will fail definitely. The reason is we have defined the amount column check constraints we have defined. So the amounts always should be greater than 5,000. Let's see. So it will fail. Check constraint is fail. The reason is we have defined as a check constraint. If give 5,000 1 rupee, even 5,000 also it is not work greater than 5,000. If we give equal, it will come. It will fail. Let's see. So let's see. We give 5,001 will be insert. Okay. That is called as check constraints. So another one is we have to pass while creating the table. We have to pass vendor name as default name. Okay. Let's go for the next constraint is null constraints. So So in this example, so when I did not define, right? So in this case, so I'm going to, no, no, no. Mm, So earlier in the top right, so we did not pass any value. We did not pass in third row and fourth row. Did not pass any value. Null value is entered. So as part of my requirement is even we do not allow null values for this vendor name column. Okay. So for that, there is a one more constraint called as null constraints. So how to define not null. So not null is a constraints. So when you define as not null on this column, right? Not null on this column, it does not allow any null value. Even if you pass the same duplicate value also, that's fine. It should be some value. Cannot allow null values. Let's create. So I'm going to insert few records. Control C. So insert into cells null. This is basic step. So the very first time I'm going to insert the same record. Okay. So it will be inserted. The second time I'm passing some columns. What is the column? ID column, comma, amount. So I'm passing two columns. I did not pass this. I'm trying to pass this as a null value. So it is a primary key. So it does not allow duplicate values. So anyway, check constraints. It is condition is satisfied. So I'm going to insert this value. It will throw, it will execute or it will fail. Execute? No? No. We have defined as not null constraints, right? So not null means if you do not provide vendor name by default it will insert as a null value. But we have defined as a not null constraints. Okay? Not null constraint. It cannot allow null values. But we are passing vendor name is null value. So it will fail. Let's try. The insert the value null into column does not allow null value. Very clear, right? Now, so you have to pass any value. Even you can pass empty value. You can ABC something. Any value you have to pass. No. అది ఎన్కేఆర్ గా ట్రేడ్ చేస్తాం. ఇక్కడ అదే పాస్ చేయాలి. వెండర్ నేమ్ పాస్ చేయాలి. ఇక్కడ వెండర్ నేమ్ పాస్ చేయాలి. మీరేమో చెప్తారు. We have to pass. We are passing three arguments here. Same time we have to pass three arguments here. Otherwise, you can remove this one. Vendor name. So this insert. So let's try. Check now. Select star from salesman. See? So now we have defined three constraints. For each column, one constraint is sales primary key. So it cannot allow duplicate values. So check constraints. The amount always should be greater than 5,000. So another one is not null. We should have passed the value for vendor name. And unique. So unique I did not define. So unique only one null values it will happen. Primary key, check constraints, default. Okay, now we'll go for default constraints. Okay. So what is the requirement is if we are not providing any amount value by default is 5,001 or 6,000. So greater than, so in this case, so I'm going to remove check constraints. I default is default constraints default. So what is the default amount? Should be 5,000. So okay. So here I have defined again three constraints: primary key, default constraints, varchar. Whenever while trying to insert only two columns, ID column, vendor name. So it did not provide amount column. So by default, we will insert a 5,000. Let's see now. So table is created. So going to insert some values. Okay, I'm going to insert 103, some default value. Okay, that's fine. Good, good catch. Okay, executed. Control C, Control V. So I'm going to now I'm remove this column. So I did not pass this value. Okay, so I'm giving 100. Okay, so it will execute or it will execute. And what is the value for default? Let's see here. Select from okay, execute. If you see 103, only one value is there. So now I did not give any value. Okay, for amount column. After inserting, generally, if you do not provide any amount column, generally it is null value is there. But this time it will be where we have created one default constraints. So it will pass that default value. If you do not provide any value while inserting, it will pass 5,000 value in this insert statement. 100, 5,000 here. Clear? So this is purpose of default value. So generally this where we can use default value. So while creating a date column, right? You want to update or insert. So that time we can define as date column as a default date. So default how to get today date? What is today date? Second 17, right? So in SQL server, how to get today date? So whatever you are telling is right or not. So how to print today date is select get date. So get date is a keyword. So by using this one, we can print the today date. Same date. So it is an interview question. What is today date? How can you write a command? What is that command? Get date. So to print current date as by using SQL server, get date is a command. So if we go for Power BI now, Power BI now in Power BI. Here also it is coming. It is throwing error. is not a recognized built-in function. So the last one is foreign key. So there is parent and child. So foreign key, how it is dependency on another table. So for example, I have two tables, employee, department. So employee table, so sorry, department table, we have defined as department ID as a primary. So we are inserting some value. Okay. Then we employee table, so department. So the employee table also department table is sorry, department column is there. So there we have defined as a foreign key. Foreign key we have defined as a foreign key. So in this case, whatever the values in the department table, whatever the values it is there, then those values only inserted in the employee table. So you are trying to insert a different different department ID. So it cannot allow. Simple thing is, it cannot allow foreign key. That's the difference. So, so clear. So you go through all the this the things. So alter table name. So uh you want to add a constraints. You want to add a constraints. Alter table name. Alter column name. So this is common. We adding table or adding anything. This is common. Alter table name. Then alter column. So column name. So varchar. So up to here we are fine. So just simple normal constraint. We are going to add. So add constraints syntax is alter table says add constraints, add constraints name, unique column. Okay. I'm not going to this script to practice it. You want to drop the constraints, alter table name. This is common for add. If for column level, we are going to add column name. But if we go in for constraints, have to maintain the constraints is a keyword and constraints name. What is the constraints? Unique. And which that unique key which in the which column you are going to apply, you have to mention specific that column. Here. So we have to mention column name. And you want to drop after adding drop alter. So let's say I want to drop this default constraints. So alter table. What is the table name? Sales default. So next drop constraint whatever the constraint it is be there on the table name, we can able to see here. Go to tables. So what is the table name? Sales default. So it is there here. Go to tables, sales default. So constraints. Yeah. So just how to verify it? Constraint. This is the constraints name. Okay. So you have to give constraints name. Okay. Alter table name, drop constraints, constraint name. So this is the syntax. Simple for adding, add constraint. So add constraints. We are going to again default constraints. So what are any constraints? Default constraint. So add constraint name, and you have to mention constraints which contains on which column. So which column I'm going to apply money column. So this is the way of adding simple syntax. Alter table. We are going to alter a table. So which either you want to add altering column or constraint. So now I'm going for add constraints. So add constraints. So add constraints. Constraints name. I'm going to. You can define any constraints. Default sense, definition, amount. So you can give any constraints name. This is you can give any constraint name. It will allow. And ఈ constraints. So a table kaina manaki. So if we go for any table, so any table level. So now I'm going to I created sales set constraints. So go to here, click plus symbol. So columns. You want to see how many columns on this table. Instead of select start from one column or select start from sales set. Instead of that, you go to columns. So you can here also we can find out. So ID PK primary key. PK means primary key. Money null. Vendor name. So it is null. So based on this we can check. So go to constraints again. So here the constraints is there. You can find out the constraints name. Okay. So I'm going to add constraints again. It will be add. Amount.
Sir,
Yeah.
sir.
We'll start.
Hello, sir. Sir, audible? Is it audible? Hello.
Yes, Rohit.
Rohit sir, Ravi. Hello.
Hello.
Sir, Ravi.
Ravi.
Sir, foreign కి ఒకసారి ఎక్స్ప్లెయిన్ చేస్తారా?
ఫారెన్ కి చెప్పలేదు, టుమారోనే అవుతుంది.
ఓకే.
ఓకే, టైం అయింది కదా, అందరు జాయిన్ అయింది కదా. ఫారెన్ కి అది టైం పడుతుంది, ఒక 15 minutes. విల్ కంటిన్యూ. ఫారెన్ కి ఇంకా స్టార్ట్ అయింది ఈ రోజు, కాకపోతే టైం పడుతుంది.
ఓకే సార్.
యా. The name amount. So this is check constraint. Okay. So we have to give the proper way. So for the check constraint, so default we are giving, we have to define default amount. So sorry, so default amount. We go for check constraint, right? So default or check constraint. Check constraint. So amount should be, what is the condition? Greater than 5,000. So you have to define check constraint properly. Let's check the conflict after the diversity table. The alter table statement is conflicted. Just check one. Somewhere it is there. Amount greater than 5,000. So check salary greater than at constraint. alter table, table name, add constraint name, then check amount. Yeah. Okay. The reason is we already there the check constraint in the default constraint. That's the reason. We already there that column. So where we have removed earlier. So what constraints, right? Check constraints, right? So in the check constraint, first of all, I'm going to drop these constraints. Let's see here. Alter table. What is the table name? Okay. Now I'm drop constraint name. So I'm going to drop here alter table. What is the table name? Okay. So I'm going to drop, then recreate. Okay. Now it will be inside. Okay. That's the reason. So earlier already there the check constraint on that column. We are trying to again create it. That's the reason it is facing issue. So we'll continue tomorrow for the constraint part. Okay. So as we discussed for today class, constraint is nothing but set of rules are defined at the column level while creating the table. Okay. So primary constraints. Let's go for one by one. Not null, unique key, primary key, check constraints, default. We have only pending is foreign key. Okay, that I can explain by tomorrow class. Yeah, that's all for today class. Thank you. Close. I will close and can you please rejoin for this meeting? So I want to stop the record, everything. So please rejoin, everyone.